The only person on this stage is a convicted felon is the man I'm looking at right now.
Without question, the worst president, the worst presidency in the history of our country.
The first presidential debate is in the books. We have a full recap as well as what the reaction has been like. The Morning Rundown starts now.
From the Straight Arrow News Studio, bringing the stories that matter to you from across the United States and around the world. This is the Morning Rundown.
Today is Friday, June 28th. Thank you for joining us. I'm Kara Rucker. After last night's debate, President Biden's future as the Democratic nominee is being questioned from within his own party. The timing of a White House announcement saying Biden had a cold during the debate is being scrutinized, and Trump criticized for several non-answers to questions asked by the moderators. We'll get to the fallout and reaction from last night's debate, but first, highlights from the more than 90-minute showdown between the current and former U.S. president. President Biden and former President Trump firing back at one another while discussing topics like the economy, abortion, immigration, the wars in Gaza and Ukraine, and their overall aptitude. The presumptive nominees walking on stage, foregoing the traditional handshake. The first topic, the economy.
He had the largest national debt of any president in a 4-year period, number one. Number two, he got $2 trillion tax cut, benefited the very wealthy. What I'm going to do is fix the tax system. For example, we have 1,000 billionaires in America. And what's happening? They're in a situation where they, in fact, pay 8.2% in taxes. If they just paid 24%, 25%, either one of those numbers, they'd raise $500 billion, I should say, in a 10-year period. We'd be able to wipe out his debt. We'd be able to help make sure that all those things we need to do, child care, elder care, making sure that we continue to strengthen our health care system, making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the COVID, with dealing with everything we have to do with, look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
Well, he's right. He did beat Medicare. He beat it to death, and he's destroying Medicare.
When it came to immigration, Trump focusing on the crisis at the border, an issue he consistently brought up throughout the night.
He decided to open up our border, open up our country to people that are from prisons, people that are from mental institutions, insane asylum, terrorists. We have the largest number of terrorists coming into our country right now, all terrorists, all over the world, not just in South America, all over the world. They come from the Middle East, everywhere. All over the world, they're pouring in.
I'm not saying no terrorists ever got through, but the idea they're emptying their prisons, we're welcoming these people, that's simply not true. There's no data to support what he said. Once again, he's exaggerating, he's lying.
On abortion, Trump commended the Supreme Court for overturning Roe v. Wade, while Biden vowed to reinstate it.
What happened is we brought it back to the states, and the country is now coming together on this issue. It's been a great thing.
And this is the guy who says the states should be able to have it. We're in a state where in 6 weeks, you don't even know whether you're pregnant or not, but you cannot see a doctor and have him decide on what your circumstances are, whether you need help. The idea that states are able to do this is a little like saying we're going to turn civil rights back to the states.
When discussing veterans, Biden bringing up a report from The Atlantic in 2020, where Trump is quoted as calling service members suckers and losers, something Trump has slammed as a false hit piece.
I went to the World War I cemetery he refused to go to. He was standing with his 4-star general, and he told me, he said, I don't want to go in there because they're a bunch of losers and suckers. My son was not a loser, was not a sucker. You're the sucker. You're the loser.
President Trump?
First of all, that was a made-up quote, suckers and losers. They made it up. It was in a third-rate magazine that's failing, like many of these magazines.
On foreign policy, Trump argued Biden's withdrawal of Afghanistan showed America as weak, which inspired Russian President Vladimir Putin to invade Ukraine. Biden calling that statement malarkey and warning that Putin has to be stopped. To the war in Gaza, Trump said, let Israel finish the job. Biden saying the U.S. is providing Israel with all the weapons they need and when they need them. While policies were the focus of the debate, there were a fair share of personal attacks.
The only person on this stage is a convicted felon is the man I'm looking at right now. And the fact of the matter is, what he's telling you is simply not true.
But when he talks about a convicted felon, his son is a convicted felon at a very high level. His son is convicted, going to be convicted probably numerous other times. Should have been convicted before, but his Justice Department let the statute of limitations lapse on the most important things. But he could be a convicted felon as soon as he gets out of office. Joe could be a convicted felon with all of the things that he's done.
The crimes that you are still charged with, and think of all the civil penalties you have. How many billions of dollars do you owe in civil penalties for molesting a woman in public, for doing a whole range of things, of having sex with a porn star on the night while your wife was pregnant? I mean, what are you talking about? You have the morals of an alley cat.
Give you a minute, sir.
I didn't have sex with a porn star, number one. He's not equipped to be president. You know it, and I know it. It's ridiculous. We have a debate. We're trying to justify his presidency. His presidency is, without question, the worst presidency in the history of our country.
The idea that we're talking about worst presidents, I wasn't joking. Look it up or go online. 159 or 58, don't hold me the exact number, presidential historians, they've had meetings and they voted who's the worst president in American history, one through best to worst. They said he was the worst in all of American history. That's a fact. That's not conjecture.
When discussing their abilities to handle the presidency at their respective ages, Biden 81 years old and Trump 78, the two began arguing over their golf game.
Look, I'd be happy to have a driving contest with him. The reason I got my handicap, which when I was vice president, down to a 6. But by the way, I told you before, I'm happy to play golf with you if you carry your own bag. Think you can do it?
That's the biggest lie. He's a 6 handicap of all.
I was an 8 handicap.
Yeah.
8.
Never.
But I had, you know how many?
I've seen you swing. I know you swing.
Let's
not act like children.
President Trump, we're going to
21
turn
Let's not act like children.
You are
to
a
a
child.
specific concern.
As the debate ended, Trump said he would accept the results of the election if it's a fair and legal election. In his closing statements, Trump saying America is a failing nation under Biden and he'll make America great again in a second term. Biden, meanwhile, saying he made significant progress after what he called was a debacle left by Trump. The two are set to debate again in September. The response to the first presidential debate has been swift on both sides. Fact checkers have issued corrections for statements made by both candidates, but it is President Biden's performance getting the most attention. Biden's performance on the debate stage has some Democratic lawmakers telling news outlets they are questioning his future ability as president. The Biden campaign and White House released a statement during the debate saying Biden came into the debate with a cold. The timing of the news of Biden feeling unwell questioned in the media's post-debate coverage. At one point, former President Trump questioned whether Biden even understood his own response to a question on the border.
What I've done since I've changed the law, what's happened? I've changed it in a way that now you're in a situation where there are 40% fewer people coming across the border illegally. That's better than when he left office. And I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we can do with more Border Patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either.
David Axelrod, a top advisor to former President Barack Obama, speaking of the concerns from Democrats during CNN's post-debate coverage.
There is a feeling, I think there was a sense of shock, actually, at how he came out at the beginning of this debate, how his voice sounded, he seemed a little disoriented. He did get stronger as the debate went on, but by that time, I think the panic had set in, and I think you're going to hear discussions that I don't know will lead to anything, but there are going to be discussion about whether he should continue.
The Trump campaign declared victory after the debate, issuing a statement saying Biden was unable to defend his, quote, disastrous record on the economy and the border. Next month, both major political parties will hold their conventions to officially nominate their presidential candidates. You can always find our latest coverage of the presidential election on the Straight Arrow News app and at san.com. In a historic move, the former Uvalde school police chief has been indicted over his role in the slow police response to the 2022 mass shooting at a Texas elementary school that left 19 children and 2 teachers dead. Former Uvalde School District Police Chief Pete Arredondo was indicted by a grand jury on 10 counts of felony child endangerment or abandonment and briefly booked into the county jail before he was released on bond on Thursday. A former school officer at Robb Elementary was also indicted on similar charges. More than 2 years later, they're the first officers to face criminal charges in one of the deadliest school shootings in U.S. history. Earlier this year, the Justice Department released a report that said law enforcement officers had many opportunities to reassess their response. More than 300 law enforcement officers responded to the school that day, some waiting in the hallway outside the classroom, even as the shooter could be heard firing shots inside. It took them 77 minutes to shoot him and put an end to the killing. Oklahoma's top education officials have ordered schools to teach the Bible and have a copy in every classroom. In a memo, the state superintendent of public schools said effective immediately, the Bible must be added as part of the curriculum in grades 5 through 12. The directive was immediately condemned by civil rights groups and supporters of the separation of church and state, with some calling it an abuse of power and a violation of the Constitution. Oklahoma law already explicitly allows Bibles in the classroom and lets teachers use them in instruction, but it's not clear if the state has the authority to mandate that schools teach it. This is the latest church versus state case in public schools. A Louisiana law passed this month requiring the 10 Commandments be shown in all public school classrooms. Another action civil rights groups is looking to stop. The NFL has been ordered to pay nearly $5 billion in damages after a jury found it broke antitrust laws, saying the league conspired with DirecTV and network partners to increase the price of the exclusive Sunday ticket package. The lawsuit covered 2.4 million residential subscribers and 48,000 businesses who paid for the package from the 2011 through 2022 seasons. The jury awarded $4.7 billion in damages to the residential class and $96 million to the commercial class. The lawsuit claimed the NFL broke antitrust laws by selling its Sunday ticket package at an inflated price and restricted competition by only offering it on a satellite provider. The NFL says it will appeal the decision. And finally this morning, like father, like son, the LA Lakers have drafted Bronny James. After going unselected in the first round, the son of NBA superstar LeBron James was drafted with the 55th overall pick on Thursday. If they should go on the court together, they'll make history as the first father-son duo to play on the same team at the same time. These are your top stories for this Friday. We'll see you back here on Monday. Until then, I'm Kara Rucker. Have a great weekend.